everyone. Today we have a very important person because getting her time also was very difficult for me. Apparently, she's been very busy with her work and also her startup. So, yes, we have the founder of Hoik today with us. Welcome, Toshika Agarwal. How are you?
Thank you.
How's it going?
Thank you. Hi everyone. I'm good. I'm good. Like you said, too much work, but I like it. So good.
Last time we had a conversation, I think you were with a consulting company, right? If I'm not wrong.
I still am. I'm still working at McKinsey as a consultant, as an analyst.
So, how is it there? How is it working at McKinsey right now?
I would say it's pretty good because one good thing about McKinsey as a firm is number one, it gives you a really good exposure. It gives you really good learning opportunities. Especially, I mean, no offense to anyone, but being a commerce grad, you don't get a lot of good opportunities when you're just out of college, right?
That is a
So
very
on
strong
that
statement.
yeah, I mean, to be very honest, I mean, not all of us get good stuff. I have talked to some of our interns, and they would say they are doing digital marketing internship, and their role is to go to the social media handles of the company every day and record the list of followers.
Right.
I mean, imagine that's a digital marketing executive internship or job. So I would say, not like everybody gets a very good role in terms of learning and exposure, which is what you get when you're working with McKinsey. I would say yes, you don't have a work-life balance because you know when you start, but you don't know when you are going to end your day. Maybe you'll work like 16 hours a day, or at least 8 to 9 hours every day. You would be working, but I think it's pretty good. It's been like almost 2 years that I've been working, but even now every day there's something new that I learn, something super interesting, and I'm like, oh, okay, I didn't knew that. So on that note, it's really it's a good experience, I would say.
So, as a data analyst, what kind of data are you handling? Like,
i
what's
am not I am not a data analyst. I am an analyst in strategy and corporate finance practice. So my role is more around doing the valuations of publicly listed companies,
oh wow. All right.
and then help them create their strategies for the coming 10, 15 years and all of that. So
Based on your evaluation, the company decides whether they need to acquire or merge with the XYZ company, and they go forward with acquiring or merging with them.
I would say it's a mix. So M&A is sort of like a service line of my practice, wherein so yes, we also help them understand if they should do M&A or not, and which company they should acquire. But it's also about, so one thing that I learned. So how do you judge whether a person is a good CEO or not? So one very interesting aspect is, you look at the valuation of these publicly listed companies, and then if the company's valuation has been increasing, in a very simple terms, the company's share price, for instance, has been increasing over the time. That means that if the CEO is a good CEO, because you're giving good returns and the market is expecting, they think you are a good company. So those aspects are also important. So that's another part of it, of doing the valuation. Then the third part is, again, so talking about the investors. Some of the investors are like very crucial investors for every company, which don't invest in your company for just trading purposes, that tomorrow your price goes up, I'm going to sell the stock. But they invested because they know you are a good company, you are doing good stuff. So we
Right.
also help them understand who are these important investors, how should they talk to, what is missing out, and stuff like that.
First of all, what qualities do you see in a CEO? Because you're a founder of a startup yourself, and what qualities do you see, and why are you just linking it with the mathematical number, which can be totally dependent on the rumors and the sentiments of the market, which might not be the right reflection of a CEO as a manager or a leader?
Exactly. So I'll take it up one by one. Number one, what I see in a good CEO is a person who has a vision, who knows where we have to go, who can think about how are things going to happen in the future, who can plan accordingly, and is good at management. but also has good people skills, because as the name suggests, it's chief executive officer, right? So
Right.
your role has to be around managing people as well. You have to talk to people. You are running an organization. So that's number one. Number two, yes, because you are more or less the leader of the organization, you need to understand what's the goal my organization is, trying to achieve, and making sure that this goal is being communicated to the people within the organization in the right way. So I would say in a very gist, that's the role of a CEO. And if you are able to do it the right way, your organization will grow. Right now, coming on to the second question, where you said why are we linking just share price? So I won't say we are linking just share price. That's more of an example wherein one team sort of said that, ex CEO, I'm not, I cannot name somebody, but ex CEO claims to be a very good CEO. And the reason how are we going to check it is, we are going to look at not share price but shareholder return. So shareholder return includes dividends that you get, and also includes any
Return on
change in
equity.
the, yeah, return on, sort of, not exactly return on equity, but sort of return on equity. So like make it simpler, I use the word share price. Think about any publicly listed company. Let's talk about Apple, for instance, right? Now you as an investor, you are investing in Apple today. Okay. Now what happens is, you get, there's some sort of rumor, for instance, there's some sort of rumor into the market that comes, and because of which you would obviously, maybe take your stake out or whatever, share price is going to reduce. But it's going to be reduced. If it's a rumor, it will only happen for a very short period of time, like 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks max, right? After that, your share price will again go back to where it was. And that's why we don't look at, I would say, daily share price, but more or less like yearly growth,
Period.
over a
Okay.
period,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
5 years, 10 years. And then for a publicly listed company, looking at how my share price has performed helps us to understand how the market, how the people around us think about us, right? So if as a CEO, my role is to also make sure that the people in my organization understand the vision of my organization, then it's also in a way my role that I make sure the people out there, my customers, understand what my vision is. Customer understand what am I good at, right? If they understand it, they will invest in my business. If they invest in my business, my share price will go up.
Always wanted to learn something new, learn something different. So you join different societies and all. So first of all, what sort of societies were these and what sort of experience you were looking out for? And secondly, how this experience helped you with the startup that you're doing right now?
Hmm. Okay. So I would say that, since I was the eldest person in my family, there was sort of nobody to guide me how things work at DU. So honestly, I didn't knew that there are societies in DU which are like the most popular stuff you have to do in,
Yeah.
at the college. But so I was part of the marketing society. I was part of the anti-drug society. I was part of a non-profit organization called Connecting Dreams, and I was part of Rotary International. So, I think these were the four of the societies that I joined in the second year of my college. How are they different? So, marketing society, like Gargi's marketing society is one of the good marketing society within DU, and the experience that I got there is more around how do good people skills. So being from a girls college, you talk to so many people around you, you try to understand how people think when you are leading stuff. So number one, in the third year of my college, I was treasurer at marketing society. I was club advisor at my Rotary club. I was president of the anti-drug society and coordinator of connecting group. So
So
apparently
people skills apparently you just you learned it.
yeah,
Right. Yeah.
it came into me. And marketing as a domain, I understood about marketing from the marketing society, to be honest, because when there's an event comes up, I mean, the way these people market that specific event, it's really interesting to see. I didn't knew a lot of stuff that happens around, and I had no idea about it. So that was a good experience for me from there. From Rotaract or the other two, so these are like non-profits, into the
Non-profit
social
organization.
services. So for me personally, I am a person, I mean, eventually my end goal, like my life's end goal is to build something that generates value to the people in terms of the people who don't have access to resources. I mean, in India there are so many, the lower middle class, or the the people like below them, they don't they have the potential, they have the talent, but they don't get access to these skills, right? So at the end of the day, I want to build something, maybe a non-profit, maybe a business, but for them. And being a part of these three organizations helped me to understand that. It helped me to understand I want to get into social services. This is what eventually I want to do.
So, do you think people skills is something that just comes to people, or is it something you can learn along the way?
I would say it's something that you learn along the way. You learn it in terms of, so I'm talking to 10 other people, right? But it's up to me if I absorb it, if I absorb how do you talk to people, how do you manage people. On the contrary, I've seen so many people who would be doing a lot of stuff, but they would just come into the meetings,
Yeah.
finish their own role, and leave. If you do that, you won't get the people skills, right? If you're just focusing on what do I have to do. So it's something that you learn along the way. It's something that you have to be aware about. You need to think about that. How is it being done?
So, what's your piece of advice? A lot of us in our 20s, we will be attending a lot of meetings, and I think the culture today has become that you attend a meeting, you just do what your work is, just focus on your work and just leave the meeting. Apparently,
Hmm.
exactly. So, what is your piece of advice? What should be the follow up after the meeting that makes you a person who has good people skills?
I would say, honestly, that's very true, especially with the pandemic, everything being virtual. But think about it, if it would have been in a physical setup, would you just go there, get your work, and come back? No, right? I mean, you would go there, you'll start a conversation, you will focus, you'll discuss your work, and at the end, you should, number one, finish, if it's work specific, finish it with the next action items, So always summarize it. Okay, we discussed XYZ thing, and I am going to do ABC after this, right? You do that. When you are doing it, for instance, my next role is that I have to build a model after this discussion, I have to send it to you. So instead of, as soon as I'm done with it, I just share it with you. If I just say something like, "Hey Apu, it was great talking to you today," right? And then I share it with you, it's a little bit, in a way, I'm connecting with people, right? So that's number one, that's important. And if you are a leader, one very important thing for you is you set deadlines, you set timelines. So you say that you have to do X thing, but by when? If you don't do it, then that's a problem. And I think after it, how you want to do it depends on you. Some people, like to be very strict, that you give me an update on a daily basis. Some people are deadline oriented. I am a deadline oriented person. I give you a deadline. If I have like made this very clear, if it's not there on the deadline, there's going to be a problem. But how you want to do it, when you want to do it, up to you. So that's how I like to sort of work. Being a part of so many organizations helped me to understand that networking is very important. Networking, I mean, it's networking is not that I met you at SPJ, right? So it's not like we met and then we met stay, like we hang out together for 5 days and that's it. No, we stayed connected in some way or other, but
Somewhere.
we were connected, right? I think that's what networking is about, which actually helped me grow, because as a startup, it's very simple. You cannot do everything on your own. You need
Right.
people to help you, guide you, provide resources, and that's where networking comes in handy. And I think that's again one of the good thing, that almost all the good startups, or all the startups in DU, at least I have good relations with the founders of these startups, at least at the university.
Being an introvert myself, I feel that it takes a massive energy on my part to stay connected with people, right? Because it's easier to just be connected with three or four people in your close group. So, is there a template for you of how do you try to stay connected with these people?
One thing is, so honestly, I also, like, when I say close friends sort of group, I just have, I think, 3 to 4 close friends, and they know that I am a person who might not be talking to them for a month or something, and who would just come out and would be like, "Let's go, let's meet," or "Hey, I need your help." And these are the people who were with me from school, from college, and we have a close sort of a group in terms of friends aspect. But I would say networking is two way. One is that you network with people, you make friends with them, and you are friend with them at a level. So number one, very good way is you connect with them on social media platforms. I mean, Instagram is such a good platform to connect with people. Somebody is sharing something, right? You shared a story. I went through your story. I replied to you, and that's how we are discussing today, right? That's number one. You know, when somebody's sharing, you can always connect with them if you're interested into what they are discussing or sharing about. Number two, if you think, obviously you can always have those follow-ups sort of a thing. I don't do a lot of follow-ups per se personally, because I think I have been, honestly, I'm doing so much stuff at the moment right now. It's very difficult for me to even take out time for myself, and my friends know it. So keeping this thing very clear, especially with your people who are very close to you, is very important, because I don't talk to them for a month or so, and they know, they're okay with it, you know, they know. So that's number one. But networking with people at a professional level is very different. So networking with people at a professional level is, I know what you are doing, you know what I am doing. When I am doing something and I think I might need your help, I would reach out to you. And similarly, I would, in a way, make it clear to you that whenever you would need my help, I am there for you, no matter what. That's what I would say is professional networking about, giving value to people and taking value from them at the same time. And again, I mean, any founder, most of the founders, for instance, the startups I connect with, I always, connect with them on LinkedIn, which is like a professional networking platform, important for me, and also Instagram, again, which is sort of like important for me. So I always connect with them on those platforms. So in a way, I know what they're doing. Somebody's sharing something good happened with them, always congratulate them, always give them advices and that sort of stuff.
And when you were talking about how you set up your family, how you set up your founding team, so were you trying to mirror your qualities, or were you trying to complement your qualities, as in, I'll choose people who will complement me, who have qualities that are different than me.
It's better, at least what I approached was looking for people who compliment me, because me as a person, I can look at X thing from my own perspective. If I look for people who are just like me, all of us will approach it in the same way, right? I mean, but when you're building something, how can you approach at something from just one way? You have to approach it from a lot of other ways. So yes, there will be fights, yes, there are discussions, and I like to talk a lot. So discussions, I'm always happy to have discussions. But I think complementing is a better option, especially if when I started building. So one thing that I would say is I'm not very good at writing, and I don't know, I don't like to write eventually. So first thing I looked for was a content head. I was like, I am not going to write anything. I need somebody to write stuff for me. Second, I'm very marketing focused, but I know there's a lot of stuff to be done in the marketing end. So then I look for somebody, who's good at marketing, but like you said, a little bit understands the way I think in a way, but also has his or her own, ideas and suggestions. And then I had the marketing head with us, and that's how. Then eventually we started, understanding what sort of people do we need. Keep bringing them in on the basis of that work. And I would say the first few or two people that I started with were the people I knew, maybe my friends, my juniors or something. But after that, the way we built, and which is, I think, is a very good idea, is you hire interns, right? You hire people, they work with you for a couple of months. When you're working
Then,
with somebody, exactly. So you understand who they are, how they do, what they're good at, and then you add them into your core team.
yeah. Now coming back to your startup. Okay. So what is Hoik, and why is it called Hoik in the first place? What does it mean?
Okay. Um, so Hoik was honestly started more as a non-profit, not as a startup. What we were doing back then was we were helping students to start their own business. And I mean, being from DU, I know there's such a buzz around the word entrepreneurship. Everybody wants to become a founder.
Yeah.
So I think that's when I knew that we want to do something. We were planning to do something in college, we couldn't. And now, so like I stay in Noida, my office is in Gurgaon. I used to travel for 6 hours a day to office and back home. I was saving those 6 hours, and I am more of a workaholic sort of person. I don't like to sit idle, watch Netflix or whatever. So I thought I'm saving that time. Why not build something? And that's when I decided to build Hoik. The name Hoik, so the word Hoik actually means to uplift. And the idea was that we are uplifting the business ideas of students, and that's why we call it Hoik. But in the last couple of months, we connected with a lot of students. We helped them out. We
Who are
also,
these students actually? Are these school students or college
no,
students?
they're undergrads, postgrads, mix of both. Most of them were undergrad, to be honest. But we connected with some postgrad students as well. Yeah, so on that note, I would say, like, again, so I was building a non-profit, so my goal wasn't to earn money, right? My goal was just to generate values to students in, I don't know, whichever way possible. So we had a lot of interns initially for our marketing and everything, and I used to take sessions on LinkedIn, resume writing, interview tips and stuff like that. So and every single time, I mean, me as a person, I advocate practical learning and networking a lot. I mean, every single time I would like use networking, be active on like LinkedIn, focus on internships, not your grades. So students would tell us this: there's no single platform that gives them access to these things which is cost effective to them, and everything is at one place for them. So what we have done is, now we have converted the non-profit into a startup. We don't help students to start a business anymore, because there were a couple of things that we thought is not going to work out the way we planned to at the moment. So what we do is we have created a close community for students, again, only specific for students, called Hoyt Student Network, or HSN as we call it, wherein we focus on practical learning and networking, and we help students to grow in their career. You want to become an engineer? Okay, you want to become a software engineer? We bring you people like CEO of Schindler India, Ashok Ramachandran, is a mentor at Hoik. Assistant Vice President of Marketing at PVR Cinemas is with us. Talent Acquisition Head for India at IBM is with us. So we bring in these people for you. You are going to talk to them, learn from their experiences. They are going to take master classes for you, and you can also connect like this 30-minute discussion. You can have a 30-minute one-on-one sessions with them. We bring all of those things to you on the table, and once you learn those steps, we also provide you internships at our partner organizations or other organizations, because honestly, you can only learn when you are working. You cannot learn just by studying. So we provide you internships as well.
Okay, so what is the subscription model exactly, and how did you do the pricing of this model?
So one aspect of this community is one-on-one mentoring. So one-on-one mentoring is, I bring these people and it's just you sitting there who talks to them for 30 minutes, right? So there are a lot of other platforms. To be very honest, there are a lot of other platforms available where you can book those sessions. But what I noticed, and honestly, that's very funny. So a lot of people would reach out to me on LinkedIn, saying, "Congratulations, you have been shortlisted for an expert." And I never applied to become an expert at whatever organization. But so that's when I got to know about them. I went through their website, and you won't believe it, but a person like me, for instance, who has an experience of 2 years, right, into management consulting, these people charge $1,000 from students for a 30-minute discussion. Honestly speaking, maybe you or me could afford $1,000 for 30 minutes, but
Not
not
everyone can.
everybody.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So that's when we decided the cost is going to be so low that students can afford it, but we need to charge something to run. Honestly, I don't think we can run our operations from the revenue that we get initially, but at least something to make sure that you're serious about what you are signing up for. Because when we provided services for free initially, people would sign up, book a session, and they wouldn't come,
They won't. They won't.
right?
No.
And it's not good. So the subscription is, it's a monthly subscription of $100. So you pay $100 a month, which is like very affordable. And for a one-on-one mentoring, there's a different fee there, but all the other services are like included into your subscription, and that's how we do it. I mean, making sure everything is cost effective for people.
Great work. Great. one part of the story wherein you are bringing in the students. Now, coming to the second part of the story, which is getting in the mentors. How is that working out for you? How do you do that?
I think that's where the topic of professional networking come into the picture. I personally use, yes, you can use your personal connections. I do. I mean, for instance, my uncle, he was the CFO of Shangri-La Group of Hotels for Asia, right? So he has a very good experience into hotel management. So I obviously I'm like he's like my relative. They're like, I am doing this, you have to come there, no matter what. That's what you do, obviously. But I use LinkedIn a lot for bringing in mentors, and that's again, one of the motivating factor why HSL is there. So for instance, you use LinkedIn, right? You can use LinkedIn to reach out to these people. Now think about it. Let's talk about Ashok, who's the CEO of Schindler India, right? Now he is at an org. I mean, this guy does an Instagram live. There are hundreds of people on that Instagram live. So imagine the number of messages he get every single day on LinkedIn. He cannot reply to
Thousands,
everyone,
thousands, yes.
even if he wants to. And that's when what happened was I and one person in my team, she's currently a student, and both of us would reach out to mentors, telling them this is what we are building in. Do you want to sign up for it on a voluntary basis, sort of a thing. The people she reached out to, none of them replied to her. And the same people I reached out, they replied to me. Can you
Wow,
think of
this
the
is so
reason
interesting.
for the difference?
Probably the motivating factor, the way you wrote the message was different for,
Exact same
yeah,
message.
exact same message.
Yeah.
Was it your profile? Was it more attractive?
Yeah. It was, honestly, it was my profile. I mean, a lot of them would reply to me, so there's this one he's not a mentor per se, but he has signed up to come for us some of our sessions. And this guy is a teacher at INSEAD
Oh
for
wow,
a couple of years, and he's in the board for at Harvard for a lot of other organizations, right?
this is, yeah.
And I reached out to him, and he replied. His first message was more around saying that, Toshika, McKinsey is it's a very good organization. I have a lot of friends there and stuff. So honestly, having a good
They
profile
connect, yeah.
exactly helps you to connect with people, and that's what we are also trying to do. I mean, so I use LinkedIn a lot. I use LinkedIn to reach out to mentors, reach out to these specialists, tell them what we are trying to do, and then get them on board for the community.
You have to also pay them for coming or having that 30 minutes one-on-one session.
Honestly, since what we are charging is too low, they also know it's more like a voluntary sort of a thing that they are doing. Not We don't pay any of them.
Coming back to the marketing aspect of Quick, so how exactly do you guys market? Do you use Instagram for promotions? Like there's a promotion button where you just pay Instagram to pay, or you are using interns, or you're using both? Like what's the scenario?
So I would say when you talk about the marketing strategy, focusing on our target group, which is students. Students are available on platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn primarily. If I want to, think about it, you as a person, you don't want to maybe look at something resume building sort of a stuff on Instagram. You would be like, this is a personal life, right?
Right,
I
right.
want to connect with people, all of those stuff on LinkedIn. So how we market is, number one, if you check our Instagram handle, it's more around connecting with the students. Connecting with this stuff is, so do you know what moment marketing, minimalist marketing? Okay.
Just explain it to me. I'll
Yeah.
probably know. Yeah.
Yeah. You won't know the exact terms. So moment marketing is, there's something happening today. I mean, this happened today in next 30 minutes or next 1 hour. I share something related to what's currently happening or trending, and I relate it to my business. That's moment marketing, right? What's
Is there an
trending?
example for that?
Yeah. So, for instance, the day IPL had its finals, so it's as soon as the match got over this year, and I think this last year, and Mumbai Indians won the match. What we did was, at that time, we built two different posts for both of the teams, which would win. As soon as Mumbai Indians won, we shared the post, and the reach we got on that was the highest.
So it's
So
okay. Okay. So just tell me if this example is correct. When demonetization happened, Paytm was the first one to actually market itself as the platform for cashless transactions. So that is moment
Exactly.
marketing. Yeah.
Exactly. What's happening and taking it for your business. That's movement marketing. Number two is minimalist marketing, which I personally like a lot, is more around that I create a poster or whatever for you, but my post would have the least number of stuff, pictures or the content, but it would give you a very strong message. That's called minimalist marketing. And I mean, there's a startup called the Minimalist, which is by IIT Bombay alumni. And this team,
So it's a skincare and hair care startup, which is a
no, that no. It's called the Minimalist. It's a marketing platform and startup itself. They sort of brought it into the country, or I don't know. I mean, I got to know about minimalist marketing from them, and I love their content. Even okay, so think about Zomato, the way Zomato markets. So Zomato markets on a number of ways. Number one, it sends you notifications if you have the app, which is very
right.
interesting, right? But if you go through their Instagram handle, whatever is happening currently, they would relate it to food or Zomato. Number one. And number two, their posters would be very limited content on the poster, but very strong message
Very
coming out.
strong message. That's true.
So that's what I think that's what we like. I like the most, and we focused creating stuff like that on social media handles. So I mean, we have stuff wherein we related members of the series like Money Heist, Big Bang Theory, Game of Thrones to what would be the people in a startup. So who would, the professor would be the founder because the professor has this and skills. That sort of the way content we created. So that's like you as a person, because you are on Instagram, you are my target audience. I have to be on the platform. That's the kind of content we created. We did hire interns. We hired interns to help increase our reach. We hired interns to help create the content because sometimes it's very fast moving, right?
Right.
Some news came out, next 1 hour you have to make it. So we had interns for that.
And to keep a
Paid
tab of
marketing,
that is also very difficult.
very interesting.
Right.
I mean, I think that's one thing. We don't do a proper research. I just have a team. Day one, we tell them this is what we do, and anything comes up, they just share about it, and then we make it. That's how sort of we work. But yes, and we use paid marketing as well. So paid marketing, not very extensively, to be honest. I would say, like reaching 10,000 is a mark, right? So you reach there, and then you are there. You're just there. So it's very difficult to then go to the, I mean, what's the next mark? 50,000, 100, I don't know, right? So that's when it used to look like, we are not growing. Maybe content is degrading or whatever. So we started promoting. And honestly, for me, I don't have a lot of experience into running ads. It didn't work out very well for us, to be very honest. And now we don't use promoting on social media. We didn't promote a lot of posts as well in the past, but that's what we used. And if I talk about LinkedIn, you would get more knowledge gaining stuff on LinkedIn.
I
So
think
that's
for a startup like this, which is basically community based, I think word of mouth marketing is also a major factor
very,
because
very, very important.
people who are already associated with you, the people who have been associated with you and are not right now, and they are also proponents of the community that you guys are building. So kudos to that. Right, I think we are right on time. It's 6 o'clock, and yeah, and you have very nicely summed up. You have very nicely explained, I would say. If you have any concluding remarks, if you want to tell me about something, and if you want to give some feedback for me, so anything that is on your mind, any concluding remark.
I think not a concluding remark per se, but something, for the probably more like for the audience who are watching this is just again, just be open to what sort of opportunity comes to you. Never say this is not good or this is what how why would I do this. Always do it because you don't know what you learn from it. I mean, I tried graphic designing as a hobby for a couple of months, and honestly, that helped me with whatever creating posters and stuff. So, whatever comes, give it a try, take the best thing out of it. And if you're building a startup, like Apu said, you would have challenges. I don't know a single startup which didn't face a single challenge or something that took a seat back, right? So it would happen. Be ready for it, and I think that's where you need to learn. from the mistake that you made and then focus on what you want to do next.